Hi, I'm DJ Buddha Hannah, and today I'm going to be talking about Prince. I obviously really love Prince, and today I want to tell you about the amazing, prolific, magical, mysterious artist that he was. To start off with that, I want to talk about his performance of While My Guitar Gently Weeps at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He does this insane guitar solo. I would just post it here, but it gets copyrighted so quickly. And at the end of this incredible show-stopping performance, he throws his guitar into the audience. What the fuck, right? Go on Reddit, go on these interviews, no one knows what happened. They just say it disappeared. Like it just vanished into thin air after he threw it into the crowd. Kind of a cool way to start off when talking about how he was a magical performer. Another really cool example of that is his Super Bowl performance. It's worth watching on its own because he's very talented. But during Purple Rain, not planned, not produced, it just starts raining, like Mother Nature playing along with Prince's plan. He was just such a magical person who will be dearly missed. You may have heard of Prince referred to as the artist formerly known as Prince, and that is because he had a dispute with his record label Warner Brothers. He did not like how they were controlling him and how they were treating him, and I think it's safe to say other artists, which a dispute that still goes on today as far as YouTube streams, Spotify, Apple Music, and a lot of artists feel disrespected. So in protest, Prince started going as this unpronounceable symbol that we will call the love symbol, and it is a combination of the male gender symbol and the female gender symbol. He also started going around with slave written on his face, and he would show up to really big ticket events, award shows and red carpets with slave written on his face. Quite the protest. And if you watch the Oprah interview with him, it's kind of funny and awkward to see the way they talk about so what do I call you? Do I call you Prince? No, he actually would just go by the artist. But he's the artist formerly known as Prince, and every time you're saying that, you're calling attention to his protest. Before 2016, which was unfortunately the year that he passed away, you couldn't find his music on Apple or YouTube or Spotify, and they were really, really serious about if you post something to Facebook, like a video you took at a concert, it gets flagged really quickly. I mentioned copyright earlier. That stuff just gets taken down immediately, which is kind of a bummer because he's such a talented artist and you want to see that stuff. But he demanded to be respected. A month before he passed away in 2016, my mom and I got to see him in Oakland live, which was, I can do a whole video just talking about that. She's a diehard Sirius fan, so she made sure we did not film, we did not record, we were really respectful of all these rules that were put in place to ensure the security and the respect and the privacy of living in the moment and having respect, and if you want to see me live, you have to pay for it. He was demanding that respect. Speaking of symbol, so I mentioned that the Prince symbol is this mixture of the male gender symbol and the female gender symbol. This is kind of where I want to transition into talking about how, at least I feel, he broke down gender barriers and gender expectations. He would say that he felt he had two spirits and energies inside of him. He had the masculine energy and the feminine energy. If you just look at pictures of him or listen to songs by him, it's very obvious and apparent. And something else that I it wasn't performative. It wasn't that he was acting out this stereotype of what you'd expect a woman to be. He was genuinely just being himself and gender bending and gender fluid, which I really loved, although he didn't exactly use those terms in describing who he was. In fact, he was really difficult to get your hands on in the sense of getting solid information out of him, which just adds to his mystery, but it can be a little bit frustrating when you're doing a video where you're trying to talk about his life. It's still kind of hard to put him in this box, which is another thing that I love about him. And you could see it in the clothes he wore, the way he did his hair, and the way he did his makeup. And I love this. I feel a lot of people are afraid to express or explore these parts of themselves because they're afraid of what other people will say, if they're going to be laughed out or ridiculed. And here was Prince, who was incredibly shady. He was really rude and also incredibly talented and beautiful, and people weren't laughing at him. He didn't have a problem romantically. He had this insane it feels weird to talk about because my mom really loves him, but this insane confident energy, which is really amazing. if you want to listen to some songs where he talks about this, I recommend the Controversy album. The title track Controversy is really good. Sexuality from that album is really good, and my favorite song where it's him talking about like gender and sex is Uptown. I think it's this beautiful, uplifting gay anthem that is totally just underutilized, underrated. I really, really love Uptown. I do hope you listen to those songs. While I'm talking about that, if you want to listen to some Prince songs that I think are really good, you can go on Spotify and search Hannah.tor Prince Wildcard, and you will find this like 3-hour playlist I made for KZSC back in the summer, and it's just a bunch of Prince songs that I really love. And I do hope that you like find the time, you know, now that they're available, to go on YouTube and look at his performances and his music videos and his speeches and his interviews. He was just this like amazing, incredible person who obviously has had like a big impact on me and the way I love music and the way I view gender and sexuality. Prince is a beast who will be forever missed for who he was as a personality and a musician and a celebrity and a performer, and also who he was as a civil rights advocate. A lot of what he did was kind of behind closed doors. You may know this already, you might not, but he donated to Trayvon Martin's family, and he did that like secretly. He did that through Reverend Al Sharpton, and Reverend Al Sharpton would say that they'd spend hours on the phone talking about civil rights and just like societal issues, and Prince didn't want to be this person who was like, I don't know, I think that he stood against like celebrity worship culture, although that's definitely an opinion that I have. He would donate money, he would pay off people's hospital bills, he would fund like basketball organizations, and also, so something you may remember about Trayvon Martin's murder is that when he died, he was wearing a black hoodie. Prince has a quote that I'm just going to paraphrase, but I do encourage you to like look it up. He had a comment about like, when you see a young black man in a hoodie, people assume that he's like a criminal. But when you see a white guy in a black hoodie, you think he could be a .com millionaire. You think he could be Mark Zuckerberg. Recognizing this issue, Prince helped fund and launch something called Yes We Code, which is now called like Dream Corps Inc. And it's still active. And it was created to create a pipeline for like black and other marginalized communities into like the tech industry, to shift that culture and to change the way that people view the black community. I think this was really awesome, and it's a great part of his legacy. You could hear about his activism and the way he felt about the world in a lot of his music. Obviously, like an obvious recommendation is Sign of the Times or Baltimore, but my favorite anti-war song is Money Don't Matter Tonight. Beautiful song, and also I was singing it for years before I realized what he was talking about. I thought it was about money in a relationship, but more than that, it's about like money in the world, the things that we do for money, and how it's like inexcusable to murder people or like bomb places for oil and gas. Like it's disgusting, and it's something Prince talked about, and I think it's really awesome because he was this super talented person who was using his money and his platform for the better. Speaking of favorite songs, I already know that I mentioned my playlist, but my favorite song of all time is Raspberry Beret. I wrote a personal statement about it when I applied to UC Santa Cruz, which I got in, but I wouldn't really recommend that. My favorite Prince song of all time is Take Me With You. Really, really, really good. Although I wouldn't necessarily recommend his movies. My favorite song, When I'm Mourning, which is unfortunate, but common, is Sometimes It Snows in April, which is like uncanny because he happened to pass away April 2016. As I mentioned, I saw him like a month before he passed away, and it was so amazing to see him perform all of my favorite songs like Starfish and Coffee and It's Gonna Be Lonely and When Doves Cry. It's funny to be singing like Maybe I'm Just Like My Mother, She's Never Satisfied, while literally sitting next to your mom, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. I made a Prince Muppet for my Muppet Magic final, which Muppet Magic is like a class at UC Santa Cruz. Yeah, I know that I'm gonna upload this and then be like, oh, I should have mentioned this, I should have mentioned this, I should have mentioned this, but I'm rambling. It's been like 10 minutes. I really hope this video taught you a little bit about Prince. I hope it inspires you to listen to some of his music and look at his interviews and care about what he said as a social justice advocate. And I love him very, 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 very much. I dearly miss him, even though I never met him. He was a magical person, and thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about Prince.